I'm going to be honest. When you run a snowplow for a living, you expect chaos. You expect people calling at 3 a.m. like their driveway is on fire. You expect angry texts. You expect someone's uncle trying to tip you with a Dunkin' gift card, like that's going to keep you warm in a blizzard. But what I did not expect, at 5:12 in the morning, during the worst storm of the year, was a woman in a designer coat pounding on my door like she was serving me divorce papers. That morning, I was standing in my garage, coffee in one hand, keys in the other, staring at fat snowflakes smacking my windshield so hard they sounded like gravel. The forecast said we were getting close to 20 inches in northern Connecticut, and for my little snow removal business, that meant one thing. I was about to be working nonstop for the next 2 days. That's good money, sure, but it's also the kind of work where your whole life becomes a checklist. Routes, timing, fuel, salt, contracts. Every minute matters. I'd built this business from scratch after leaving my job in finance about 4 years earlier. I was tired of staring at spreadsheets and pretending I cared about quarterly projections. I wanted something real, something physical, something that made sense. Snow falls, people need it gone. I show up, I get paid. Simple. And most of my clients were good people, too. Teachers, nurses, older couples, single moms. Folks who didn't treat you like you were their personal servant. But then there was her. Her name wasn't Nancy in my story. We'll call her Deborah Klein. And she didn't just live in my neighborhood. She thought she owned it. The place was called Silver Pines Ridge, a newer HOA community full of tidy lawns, matching mailboxes, and neighbors who smiled in public but judged you in private. I lived in one of the smaller homes near the entrance. Deborah lived near the back, up on the hill, in this massive stonefront colonial with a driveway that could have landed a plane. She was the HOA president for years, and let me tell you, Deborah didn't run that board like a volunteer. She ran it like she was the mayor, the sheriff, and the Supreme Court all at once. She fined people over trash bins. She measured fences. She once tried to make a neighbor repaint their shutters because the navy tone was too aggressive. Yeah, I wish I was joking. So when I opened the door that morning, and Deborah was standing there in tall boots, thick makeup, and this fluffy white coat that looked like it was made from the spirit of a polar bear, I already knew it wasn't going to be a friendly chat. She didn't even say good morning. She just pointed past me at my truck and said, "Evan, you need to plow my driveway first." Immediately, I blinked at her like my brain was still loading. "Deborah, I've got a route. Your place is scheduled around lunchtime like always." Her eyes widened like I slapped her. "Lunchtime? I have a private showing at 9. 9, Evan. Buyers from Manhattan. They are flying in. And here's the thing. I didn't dislike her because she was demanding. Business is business. I disliked her because she acted like everyone else existed to accommodate her lifestyle. I kept my voice calm. "Okay, but the storm's still coming down. If I bump you up, that pushes everyone else back." She stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was about to threaten me with nuclear codes. "I am the HOA president. This is a community priority." I almost laughed. I didn't, but I wanted to. "Deborah," I said, "the HOA doesn't employ me. Everyone pays me directly. I plow in the order people are scheduled." Her mouth tightened, and I swear I saw something ugly flicker behind her eyes. "Then I'll file a violation. You operate a commercial vehicle in a residential community. We can vote on restrictions." That got my attention, because it wasn't an empty threat. HOAs can mess your life up if they want to. You can do everything right, pay your fees, follow the rules, wave at your neighbors, and still get buried under letters, fines, and hearings until you're too exhausted to fight back. I looked at the snow piling up behind her and sighed. "Fine. I'll be there by 8. Deborah smiled like she'd just won a trophy. "Make it 7:30, just to be safe." 8, I repeated. "And if you want emergency service, it's double." Her face twisted. "That's extortion." "No," I said. "That's reality. Take it or leave it." She hesitated, then nodded like she was doing me some kind of favor. "Fine, but I'm still reporting your attitude." And then she walked away like the storm personally owed her an apology. I shut the door and just stood there for a second, staring at the wall, trying to decide whether I was angry or impressed that someone could be that confident while being that ridiculous. By the time I got in the truck, my phone was already blowing up. My buddy and business partner, Tyler, called me and didn't even say hello. "Let me guess. Deborah Klein." I groaned. "Yep. She called me too," he said. tried to get me to override you. When I said no, she threatened to call my landlord about my equipment trailer. That's when I realized this wasn't just her being annoying. This was a pattern, a system. She bullied until the world bent around her. I drove out into the blizzard, clearing driveways and lots, doing my best to stay focused. But the whole time I kept thinking, how long am I supposed to live like this? At 7:52, I pulled into Deborah's driveway. Her house looked like something out of an old money magazine. Lights glowing in every window. Tesla in the garage. Heated driveway markers. Even her mailbox looked expensive. I dropped the plow and got to work. 10 minutes later, the driveway was clean enough to eat off of. That's when her front door swung open. Deborah marched out like she was inspecting troops. "You're late," she shouted over the engine noise. I checked the time. "It's 7:53. I said 7:30. And I said 8. I replied, lifting the plow. She marched toward my truck, heels clicking on the ice like she was trying to start a fire. "You need to do the walkway too." I stared at her. "The walkway isn't in your contract." She looked offended. "The buyers will walk up to my door, Evan. They can't see snow." I leaned out the window. "Then hire a walkway guy." She gasped like I'd just admitted to tax fraud. "Unbelievable. I'm reporting you to the BBB." I smirked. "Go ahead. I've got a 4.9 rating." And right then, like the universe wanted drama, a black SUV rolled into her driveway. The buyers. Early. Deborah's whole face changed instantly. That angry mask disappeared, and she lit up with this fake smile so bright it could have powered my headlights. "Welcome. As you can see, we keep Silver Pines Ridge immaculate." I drove off, trying not to laugh, but in the back of my mind I knew. This wasn't over. Act 2 hit a week later. I got an official letter. HOA board hearing. My commercial operations were under review. Deborah was trying to restrict me from parking my truck in my driveway overnight. If she succeeded, I'd have to park in a rented lot almost 3 miles away, and every storm would start with me driving over there just to get my own equipment. That's not just annoying. That could kill my entire business. The night of the hearing, the community center was packed. Neighbors, board members, even a couple people who probably came just for entertainment. Deborah sat up front, perfectly composed, like she was about to sentence someone. She spoke first, of course. "Evan Lawson has been aggressive, unprofessional, and unwilling to cooperate with community leadership. His business is disruptive. Loud mornings, snow tracking, commercial presence." Then she looked at the board like she expected applause. And I stood up, hands in my jacket pockets, trying to keep my voice steady. This whole thing started because I didn't plow Deborah's driveway first. That's it. She wanted special treatment. Deborah snapped. "That is not what this is about." "Oh yeah," I said. "Then why'd you show up at my door at 5 a.m. demanding priority?" The room murmured. Then something happened that shocked me. A guy in the back stood up. Older, retired, quiet neighbor type. "She fined me $300 because my grandson parked in my driveway for 2 days while I was recovering from surgery." A woman stood up next. "She forced us to replace our front door because it wasn't the right shade of red." Another voice chimed in. "She threatened me because my kids were playing street hockey." It turned into this flood of people finally speaking out, like they'd been holding their breath for years. Deborah sat there stiff, jaw clenched, trying to smile through it, but you could see the panic creeping in. The board finally voted. 2 votes in favor of restricting me. Deborah and her little loyal sidekick. 3 votes against. Motion failed. Deborah didn't even look at me. She just gathered her papers and walked out like she was too important to be defeated in public. I thought that was the win. I really did. But she wasn't done. She filed noise complaints, called zoning, tried to get a petition going to ban commercial services entirely. Most of it went nowhere, because she was so dramatic that even the police got tired of her. And then, my past life in finance collided with my new life in snowplowing. I met an old coworker for lunch. His name was Jordan. He worked for a small investment group that bought residential mortgages in bulk, and he casually mentioned they'd just acquired a portfolio in the area. I almost choked on my sandwich. "Any chance Silver Pines Ridge is in that package?" Jordan pulled it up on his phone. Scrolled, and his eyebrows lifted. "Yeah, a few properties." "What?" I hesitated. Then I said it. "Deborah Klein. She's been making my life miserable." Jordan laughed. "Hold on. Deborah Klein, 18 Hawthorne Crest." My stomach dropped. "That's her." Jordan tapped the screen again. "Well, Funny enough. Yeah, we own her mortgage now. She's been late 3 times this year. My brain started moving fast. Too fast. And you're selling some of them off? I asked. Yeah, he said. Non-performing risk, management headache. I leaned back, heart pounding. How much? He gave me a number. Just under what you'd expect. Not cheap, but not impossible. And I had savings, plus my business had been thriving. I went home and stared at my ceiling for an hour. Was it petty? Maybe. Was it risky? Absolutely. But was it also the most poetic leverage I'd ever seen in my life? Oh yeah. 2 weeks later, through a quiet LLC with a boring name, I bought her mortgage. And for a while, nothing changed. Deborah kept acting like the queen of the neighborhood, filing complaints, speaking down to people, throwing her title around like it was a weapon. Then came the third act. The moment where everything snapped. Another emergency HOA meeting got called, of course, and everyone knew Deborah was trying again to target me. This time I walked in with a folder in my hand and a calm I didn't even recognize in myself. Deborah started her speech. The same recycled nonsense. Commercial disruption, community standards, early hours. And when she finally paused, I stood up. I'd like to submit a formal complaint about Deborah's conduct as HOA president. She turned slowly. Excuse me. I laid it all out. Dates, reports, false complaints, threats, harassment. The whole pattern. And while I talked, I watched the board members' faces change. Because once you stop sounding like the angry guy defending himself and start sounding like the reasonable guy presenting facts, people listen. One board member, a local attorney, leaned forward. Deborah, have you been targeting him personally? Deborah's voice cracked slightly. I have been enforcing standards. No, I said quietly. You've been using your position to punish people who don't obey you. The room went dead silent. Then the board voted to schedule a no-confidence motion. Deborah's face went pale. She stormed out again, but this time, she didn't look powerful. She looked cornered. 2 weeks later, the vote happened. The room was packed. People told story after story. And when the board finally voted, Deborah lost. Removed. Just like that. And I should have felt victorious. I did. But weirdly, I also felt tired. Like I'd been carrying a weight for months and suddenly it dropped, and I didn't know what to do with the emptiness. Then I got a call from Jordan. She missed her mortgage payment, he said. Like, fully missed. No partial. No check. Nothing. I froze. Because suddenly, this wasn't a story about revenge anymore. This was someone's home. I told him, send the official notice. Give her the grace period. She didn't pay. Second notice. Still nothing. So I reached out directly. One email. Simple. Are you okay? She responded fast. Too fast. Like she'd been waiting. You bought my mortgage, she wrote. This is your revenge. I called her. And when she answered, she didn't sound like the Deborah I knew. She sounded smaller. Tired. Scared. I'm broke, she admitted. I was trying to sell the house. That's why I needed the driveway plowed that morning. I can't afford this place anymore. And here's the part that still messes with me. I almost felt bad. Almost. She started crying, saying she couldn't admit weakness. She couldn't let the neighborhood see her fall apart. Because she knew how many people hated her. And I said something I didn't plan to say. Deborah, I'm not trying to take your house. I just want you to stop hurting people. She whispered, I don't know how to fix it. So I gave her an extension, told her to sell the house, catch up at closing, and move on. And just when I thought it was settled, Jordan called again. Bad news. She has a second mortgage. They're about to foreclose. That meant if it went to auction, the property could sell low. And even though my mortgage was first priority, I could still get dragged into a nightmare. So I did the craziest thing I've ever done in my life. I paid off her second mortgage too, rolled it into what she owed me, bought time, protected my investment. When I told her, she went silent. Then she asked, why would you help me? And I told her the truth. Because I'm done letting you control the story. You don't get to make me the villain now. Not after everything. I'm doing this because it's smart and because it's right. But you're done terrorizing people. Done. She sold the house 2 months later. Paid off everything. I made a profit. Not huge, but solid. And she moved into a smaller condo 1 town over, where she wasn't in charge of anything. Now Silver Pines Ridge has a new HOA president. Someone normal. Someone who doesn't treat neighbors like suspects. Complaints dropped to 0. People started smiling again. And me? I still plow driveways at 5 a.m. when the storms hit. But I sleep better now. Here's the thing, though. I'm going to leave you with a question because I still argue with myself about it. Did Deborah deserve the pressure I had over her? Or did I cross a line by buying the paper to her house, even if I didn't foreclose? Because, yeah, I helped her. But I also held the ultimate leverage. And I'm not going to pretend that part didn't feel satisfying. So I want to know what you think. If you were in my shoes, would you have done the same thing? Would you have played it fair and walked away? Or would you have taken the chance to flip the power dynamic and finally stop a bully who'd been untouchable for years? Drop your opinion in the comments. And don't hold back. Was it justice? Or was it revenge wearing a nicer suit? If you've ever dealt with an HOA tyrant, a neighborhood Karen, or someone who thought they could push everybody around, I want to hear your story too. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.